Ladies and gentlemen, we are thrilled to have with us a special guest. Today we have CJ from Park2Park Podcast. CJ, welcome to Disney Assembled.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you. Thank you. And so, CJ, you reached out to us because we did something on our podcast, on our website, not our podcast, where if people had a show or they were a Disney fan or they just wanted to come on and talk about Disney stuff, that they could reach out to us. And you reached out to us, and we're so thrilled you did. So thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you start by sharing with our listeners, your Disney story. Why are you such a Disney fan? How did all that begin, and where has that led you to today?
Well, I feel like, as it goes for so many of us, it started with the generation before us. So it started with my mom and I guess my dad, but mostly my mom. I grew up in Orange County, California, very close to Disneyland, about 30 minutes away, and both my parents grew up there as well. And my mom grew up going to the park with her best friend, and, then I was born. And she took me and my sister to Disneyland all the time. And I just grew up going to Disneyland constantly, like once a week or so. We were annual pass holders basically my entire life at Disneyland, except for like 1 or 2 dark years that we don't talk about. And I worked at Disneyland for 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. And then in March of 2021, we relocated our family. Me and my husband moved to Orange County, Florida. And we live very close to Walt Disney World now. So I live here now, and I'm a pass holder out here.
That's fantastic. What a great story.
That's so cool.
You're so lucky. Yeah. I think there are many people who listen to this and say, wow, she grew up going to Disneyland, was a cast member at Disneyland, and now has a family and lives in Disney World's backyard.
Well, that's how you get Park to Park.
Well, I guess so. So tell us about Park2Park. How did that start, and how long have you been doing that? Tell us about your show.
So the first time I went to Walt Disney World, I was apparently like 6 months old. Don't remember it. Second time I went was the year 2000. I was like 10 years old. Don't have very many memories of it. So the first time I went back as an adult was 2014, and I was a cast member then at Disneyland. And I remember on that trip, I was like, wow, this is so different than Disneyland. And in my head, I was just making all these comparisons. And basically, I went back to Walt Disney World every year from 2014 until now, essentially. And I was like, every time I went, I was like, well, Pirates Disneyland is like this. The Haunted Mansion at Disneyland is like this. And I just kept making all these comparisons. And I think, in the Disney community, there's a lot of people who say, well, Disneyland is better because, well, no, Walt Disney World is better because, da, da, da. So my sister and I kind of dragged my sister into this. I said, hey, we should start a podcast and we should compare Disneyland to Walt Disney World and make a judgment on which one is better in certain areas.
That's so cool.
We've done that a few times,
yeah,
right?
We've kind of touched on that briefly, but
right. And we don't have a deep connection to Disneyland. We've been, and we have friends in Southern California, and so we're eager to get back out there. And
I think it's more interesting to get it from someone who actually knows both parks really well, like the inner workings of it all, because they are different, but they're not gonna be different to someone who's not really, who's just kind of like a, general fan, general person, as opposed to someone who's like an expert, so to say.
Right. But the first part Mimi remembers going to is Disneyland, because we went to Disney World, but you were 2 and
small.
4, so you didn't really remember that. But we went to Disneyland in 2017 and did a couple of days while we were visiting some friends there. And so I know for a while Disneyland was all Mimi would talk about, and then we went back to Disney World last July. We weren't planning to. We were in the area, and we was like, well, we have a couple of days, maybe we can get in. And so we ran through the parks for 2 days, basically.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, it wasn't a lot of, hey, stop and appreciate the vibe. It was the next thing, hurry up. So
it's definitely 2 entirely different energies. I think Disney World has that more commercial, spend money, make money business feel to it. And then Disneyland has the like classic, like happiest place on earth, because like they are different. Like Disney World is the most magical place on earth, and Disneyland is the happiest. And like, I think that that's enough of a distinction between the two that like I felt at least being at the parks, because like maybe just because Disney World is just so big and there's just so much to market, so much to do, so much to spend money on. They really like, they're pushing it. They're pushing the spend money thing. Like I feel like I'm at a place of business when I'm there. Like obviously I'm having fun and I'm running around and I'm enjoying myself, but it definitely doesn't have the like warm sort of like rounded edges that I feel that Disneyland does.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I noticed that too. And my little family is going back to Disneyland at the end of July, and we haven't been back since the week it closed for COVID. So I'm really curious. Oh, wow. Yeah, if I had known that last visit we did 2 rides, and if I knew that was our last visit, I would have done a lot more. So we're going back for the first time since March 2020, and I'm really curious going back now if it's going to be more like Walt Disney World is, pushing the kind of business side of things, or if we're still going to get that warm, fuzzy feeling that Disneyland has. I'm really curious.
No, yeah, for sure. I think it will. I think California Adventure is turning into the like Walt Disney-esque moment with all of the intellectual properties instead of just, the park,
Yeah.
That's kind of what it comes down to, I think, from my perspective. Like the more properties you push, the more new stuff you have that's not just like an original idea, the more it feels really rigid. But maybe that's just me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in your show, which about how many episodes have you guys put out so far? There's at least a couple of dozen, because I know.
We're around 20, I think. Okay. Yeah.
Good. Stick with it.
We're in season 2. Yeah.
Yeah, stick with it. Stick with it. It's great. And so most of your topics are some kind of comparison between the 2 parks, obviously. Which episodes? So I know when Mimi and I were starting off in those first couple of dozen episodes, we were like, well, which ones seemed to be working? Like we enjoyed talking about which ones did we try that didn't really feel right? Like we're all finding our voice right on the show, and even though we want to keep it more of a conversation between she and I, obviously we don't want people to be bored, right, when they're listening to it. So what, as you're thinking about the topics you guys have talked about, are there any episodes that come to mind that you were like, yeah, this is one of my favorites. This is like a good example of what we really set out to do?
I have been really enjoying this last season. This season we're doing classic attractions, rides that opened at Disneyland prior to 1971 that also exist at Magic Kingdom. Obviously Magic Kingdom didn't open until 1971, but there's rides that are there from opening day, right? So to me, this has been a lot of fun because we're having to force ourselves. My sister and I are Disneyland like die hard. That's our home park, right? So we're having to force ourselves to find some things about Magic Kingdom that we really appreciate being Disneyland people. So we're having to think outside the box a little bit, and that's been a lot of fun. And we're kind of poking fun at each other a little bit, kind of the sisterly thing. So it's just It's been a lot of fun in that regard.
What do you miss the most at Disneyland? Like that you can't get at the Magic Kingdom? What is the thing that you miss the most?
This is going to be a weird answer. Great moments with Mr. Lincoln, because that's a very Walt Disney thing. I really miss that. And I miss the Grand Canyon Primeval World diorama. That's also a very Walt Disney thing. And I miss Snow White's Wishing Well, because my husband proposed there. So that's like a very, like we've taken pictures there throughout the years, like when I was pregnant, when my son was born. So that's actually on our must-do list when we're there. Go get a picture of the 4 of us together.
That's fantastic.
That's sweet.
So when we were there with a friend who was showing us all around, and there was those little things we wouldn't have noticed if she hadn't pointed them out to us, right? So, and at the time we didn't know a whole lot about Disneyland. So, the lamp in Walt's apartment or the the windows in the Emporium where the scenes change for the different stories, which I sat there for almost an hour just watching the windows, right? I mean, all those little things. I remember we walked away saying, I mean, it's so cool that it's a big park, but it's a very intimate place.
Yes.
And the efficiency of the use of space and the design is so impressive that you feel like you're getting this, you're not missing out on a Disney park experience in any way.
You feel personally catered to at Disneyland because of its intimacy, which is like kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about like having how Disney World feels a little bit more like a business and less like just like a happy place to be, because it's not as intimate, it's bigger. And kind of cutting you off entirely. Do you have,
what else is new? It's part of our show. That's good.
Do you have
true to form, true to brand?
Do you have a hidden detail in Disneyland that you just like want everyone to know about because you think it's just the coolest thing ever?
Yeah, actually, when you were talking about the lamp in Walt's apartment, that's one of the things that I always look at when I'm in the park. Either on the way in or way out, I always glance at it. And there's a few things here and there in the park that I always just glance at and recognize, like, this is a very Disneyland thing. And one of those things is over by the Matterhorn and the submarines in Autopia, where those three attractions collide. There's fences. This is really weird. There's fences where there's like, I don't remember the colors, but there's like 2 or 3 different colored fences, and one of the fences between the Autopia and submarines, it's mostly covered by like shrubbery at this point, but I'm told that is like original from the 50s or 60s. And I just like looking at that piece of fence because I'm like, that's an old fence, and they still kept that there. And it's a different design than the fence in the rest of the park. So I'm like, that must be old. You know, a couple of cast members have mentioned that that's an old piece of fence and it looks different, and nobody, like, it's not in a spot that you can touch. So it must be old. And I just think that's a cool thing.
That is so cool. That's really interesting.
And we've learned so much about Disneyland since starting this podcast and listening to other people who either still make Disneyland their home park and still live out there, or have moved like you have. And so when we get a chance to go back, there are things that didn't exist there in 2017 that we want to see. But there's little things we've learned, like, I don't know what it's called, but when the Imagineers were trying different types of wall for and they have the different wall samples still up. And I was like, I don't really want to see that. I wish I had known that was there.
Yeah, that's over by the lockers. Yeah.
Yeah, by the lockers. So, yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, we went, like I said, last July, we were in Disney World for 2 days. When we went to Disneyland in 2017, we were there for 2 days. Were there 2 days or 3 days? 3 days?
We were there longer.
No, we were only there 2 or 3 days with Aunt Julie.
Okay.
But it was 2 or 3 days.
That's not right. It was like 4 days. It was like 4 or 5 days.
It was not 4.
We
weren't
there
in Disneyland.
For all of Thanksgiving break.
We were at our house that long. We only went to Disneyland for 2 or 3 days because we went to other places. But I didn't feel shortchanged. I got the entire experience in 3 days. The 2 days we spent at Walt Disney World last July was
so rushed.
A blur. I mean, it's just a blur trying to get things in. And we're actually going. I've been told I can't say the exact. I think I mentioned the exact dates last episode, but then my wife said, "What are you doing telling people the exact dates?" And I said, "Well, I didn't say everyone was going. I just said Mimi and I were going. But yeah, we're actually going to be in Disney World after the 4th of July, but before mid-July. So between the 4th of July and mid-July, right, we're actually going to be in Disney World. And we're really looking forward to that because we're actually going to have time to explore and take our time and see things.
So not going to talk about us anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. You ask questions.
So okay, so you mentioned that Snow White's Wishing Well was on your list of must-dos going back to Disneyland at the end of July because it's been so long. What else is on that list? Like, what is making up your, like, dream, like, back to Disneyland post-COVID, post-moving trip?
Yeah. So, I mean, since we moved, we had another child. So a lot of the things that are on our list are Fantasyland things that don't exist here. And Magic Kingdom. So they refurbished the Snow White attraction. Now it's called Snow White's Enchanted Wish. It used to be Snow White's Scary Adventures. So gotta go check that out. I need to do It's a Small World because it's way better in Disneyland than it is in Walt Disney World.
It's like the building is beautiful, and then in Disney World it's just this like kind of gross like little sign that's like really infuriating to look at because it's like okay.
We're gonna be spending a lot of time in Fantasyland. Matterhorn's on my list. I might need to see the chiropractor afterwards. That's okay. And then over in California Adventure, got to check out Avengers Campus because we've never been. I need to eat the fried chicken at the Plaza Inn. Best chicken on property, hands down. And what else? Cars Land. My son's really into cars, so got to do that. And then I want to go walk through the Disneyland Hotel in the Grand Californian.
Yeah, that's a solid list of California stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Especially for someone with that like nostalgia to
Yeah, and we're okay like missing the big e-ticket rides. Like we both grew up going there, so people are like, "Oh, you got to get Genie Plus." And I'm looking at it like our kids can't go on most of those rides, and like we grew up going to the park, so it's fine. We don't need to do those rides.
Right, like what are you going to use what are you going to use Lightning Lane for? Like being realistic, I would not waste a Lightning Lane on a dark ride, which that might be a hot take. I'm not sure, but like the dark rides, sure, the waits can get long, but like, and I just don't think it's worth spending $15 a person to skip that line. It's an hour,
Yeah,
it's okay.
And Disneyland doesn't really have like they have Small World and Haunted Mansion and like Buzz Lightyear, and to me it's like, it's okay.
Right, like those are. I think all of those are worth waiting in line for. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not one of those things where it's like capped out at a certain time. Like I wouldn't wait more than 70 minutes for Millennium Falcon or Smuggler's Run at Galaxy's Edge. Like it's not like that. It's like, okay, whatever. Like those are all worth waiting for. So it's like definitely.
Sure.
We talked about Genie for our trip and we're just kind of like.
Yeah, we're not sure. We're not sure we're going to do it or not.
Yeah.
So when we go back to Disneyland, I've told Mimi on my bucket list is to stay at the Disneyland Hotel.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have to do that. We really do have to do that.
Yeah.
So you were a cast member at Disneyland for a while. Tell us about what you did and what was your favorite part of doing that role?
Yeah, so I started at a childcare facility called Pinocchio's Workshop. That was at the Grand Californian, so parents could drop their kids off and go have date night or whatever. Disney decided they didn't want to keep that facility open, so I transferred to front desk and guest services at the Grand Californian and Disneyland hotels. Occasionally, I worked media events. So like for the big 60th anniversary, I escorted a media team from Denver to their interview spots around the park. That was really fun. And then I also taught a class for new hires who are going to be working in the hotels. So, I mean, for me, working in the hotels, what I really liked about that was you got to interact with the guests in more than just a quick 1 minute, how many in your party sit here kind of thing. It was, you got to see them for sometimes multiple days in a row. And then working with the kids in the child care center, I got to hang out with them and get to know them and like make magic for them in like really personal ways. And for a lot of the kids, like we were only open at night. It was from 5 to midnight were our hours. So they had been like dragged around the parks all day, maybe not doing what they wanted to do. Like they were operating on their parents' schedule. And then they get to us and they're like, I can play video games. I can do crafts. I can do what I want to do.
Right. Instead of just like fun. Running around a park, doing rides, being super overstimulated, just like having a time to decompress and like.
Yes.
Yeah. I also like occasionally work with children. Like I work at camp and I'm a babysitter, whatever. And like, I think the shift, like I think kids are more like open with their personalities when they're in that sort of like decompressed state, because like they're not overstimulated and in fight or flight mode. So it's like really, I can only imagine what it's like to make magic for those kids in that time, because it's so personal And like that's awesome. I think that's so cool. That's like such a cool job.
It was a lot of fun, and we were all really sad when Disney shut it down, and all of us who worked there, we were all teachers during the day too. So that was like our fun job. Like we had our day jobs and our fun Disney jobs, you know, and it was just a lot of fun.
Disney having childcare is a really interesting concept that I'm a little bit upset I'm also a little bit upset they got rid of it. Like, from like an entirely different perspective as yours, like, that just seems like a really good business opportunity. Like, maybe that's just me. Like, yeah, they're out to make money because they're like, they lost a ton of money during COVID. So it's like, and, you know, drop your kids off, go hang out in the park at night. Or like that just doesn't make any sense. Why close it? Like,
yeah, it was purely a financial decision. That's 100% what it was. And I'll tell you, we were dirt cheap babysitters. It was $15 per hour per child.
Yeah.
Oh,
which is really, really cheap. They were not making money off of us, and they repeatedly told us, you guys are a guest service. That's why you exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Any particular memories of that job of really bringing some extra magic to a child that maybe had a rough day or came to you a little overstimulated? Anything that stands? I know I didn't tell you we were going to ask you this ahead of time, but like sometimes those stories are really cool. Does any moment stand out as like one that?
I have a very sad one, but I will refrain from sharing that because it's very, very depressing. But I've shared it on other podcasts before, but I'll share a really cool one in the spirit of 4th of July. 4th of July is coming up. So part of our job was we had a private balcony just for us to go take the kids to watch the fireworks, and they would pipe in the music and everything. It was like the best part of our night. However, the Grand Californian Hotel offered that as like an experience. If somebody wanted to propose during the fireworks, they could rent out that balcony and have a private dinner and whatever. So occasionally that was not available to us. And it just so happened on 4th of July, somebody rented that out. And we were like, are you kidding? We have a dozen kids here. It's 4th of July. They want to see the fireworks. So we scrambled backstage to work with our managers and figure something out, thinking like, okay, if there's an empty guest hotel room that's not rented out for the night, we could take them up there. So it turns out the room that was empty that we could go use was the El Capitan Suite, the most expensive room in the whole resort. Wow. This is the room that like Johnny Depp stays in when he goes to stay at the hotel. So if you're in the park and you're kind of walking over by Grizzly River Run and you're looking at Napa Rose, it's the long balcony above Napa Rose.
Okay.
So we head up there, and it's like the nicest hotel suite. And these kids have no idea how nice this suite is. And all of us are like, wow. And
like they have literally no idea what they've just walked into.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, look, a room. And then they just like keep going.
So we get out on the balcony, and this balcony is so long, we can see the fireworks from Disneyland, and we can see like Angel Stadium fireworks, and we can see like all these other fireworks shows like all over Orange County. So it was just as much a magic moment for us as it was for the kids. Like they get all these crazy fireworks shows, and we get like, this is an awesome hotel suite, and we get the fireworks show.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
it was really
so cool.
That's really neat. I love I have this saying at my work when I work with a bunch of teachers, and I tell them periodically, you know, the world has enough problem announcers. We have a shortage of problem solvers. And one thing I'm always impressed with by former cast members is the problem solving ability in the moment, right? To say, okay, what can we do to make this guest feel appreciated, and to make this the best possible moment for them. And so those stories, thank you for sharing that, because I love hearing those stories.
Yeah.
And I think people who listen to our show love hearing those stories, because it just reaffirms the thing that we all love about Disney. And when you ask people what they love about Disney parks, cast members are usually one of the top 2 or 3 things anyone says, right? Yeah. Everyone appreciates the cast members. As you've gotten older, you know, growing up in the parks, I know I try to tell this to Mimi that there are things you notice that you don't notice when you're a kid, and it's either going to enhance your appreciation for what's going on, or it's going to, you know, make you pause and go, oh, really? That's That's what that is, right? So as you've grown older, and because, like, for example, when we went last year in July, one of the things I couldn't help but notice was, I mean, there was such a shortage of employees, right? Because they were really shorthanded in many areas. There were little things that you could tell just they weren't able to give as much attention to that they would normally give attention to, like, garbage cans and stuff like that, right? Were a little bit fuller than usual. But as you've grown older in the parks, is there anything that stands out to you that has enhanced your appreciation for what the parks bring to the families that you would not have noticed when you were a kid?
Well, being a cast member, kind of the saying goes is if you're a Disney fan and you become a cast member, you either like your dreams or like the illusion of magic is either shattered or like it grows your appreciation so much more. And I was one of those people where like my appreciation like exploded. Like everything about working there was fascinating. I'm sure you can see like boxes behind me. My office is a disaster. My office is like the last house or last room in the house to get unpacked here. But I still have boxes of everything from when I worked at Disney, like even the little like how to lift boxes safely at work thing. Like every little thing they gave me, I was like, this is so cool. Like, how does this work? It's the way that people come together to make the park come alive at all hours of the day. I mean, even at night, every now and then I got to walk through the park overnight, and the park is alive at night still. There's things that go on overnight. Just all the little details. And, I used to be a teacher as well, and I taught high school, and I would talk to my students about how Disney tells stories in their theme parks and what lessons can we take from that and how we tell our stories in the real world, and how can we apply that to our own life. So I kind of look at the parks through that lens a little bit. So I kind of think about the parks a little bit more deeply than I used to, more than just, wow, this is a fun ride, Right. I think about the multi-sensory experience that's going on and all the elements of storytelling that go into that to make that a fun experience for people.
Cool.
Yeah, like the bubble.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neat.
And because the bubble doesn't really feel that thick until you're like in it and you're like, oh wait, there's like stuff going on behind me, like kind of what you were saying. I was thinking about this when you were telling us that fireworks story about how you could see like Angel Stadium, their fireworks, and then all the other ones across Orange County. Like no one else would have been able to see that because you're just like there in Disney and there's nothing else outside of it. And like I've also like grown to appreciate that and notice that a little bit more as I've gotten older.
Cool.
Okay, I have a question. So we talked a lot about Disneyland, and you mentioned Cars Land, and so I wanted to know how you felt about California Adventure being exploited in lieu of intellectual properties, Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus, even Cars Land, which honestly, I think Cars Land was a great addition to California Adventure. Not mad about it at all. But the other ones, like, I think are not killing the vibe, but changing it from what it originally was. So what do you think about that?
Well, California Adventure, when the park first opened, it was honestly one of my favorite places to go because it was so empty. And an empty Disney park is a failing park. I'll tell you that much. Like, we used to go in the afternoons and knock out every single ride. It was just a dead park, and that's not good. The vibe of that park it didn't feel like a Disney park. It felt similar to like Knott's Berry Farm or Six Flags. It needed help. So while I don't like that it's on the surface, at least, moving away from the California part of California Adventure, I think the things that they have added are good, but I do think it's struggling to connect to the California part of California Adventure. Cars Land is very, very well done, and I think that was kind of a test ground for how can they do like how deep can they do an IP based land, and they did that extremely well. And I do still think it connects to California culture, because car culture and road trip culture in California is pretty big. The Pixar Pier transformation I don't think needed to happen. I really don't. The Paradise Pier area was very well done, and we've got Santa Monica Pier in Venice and Santa Cruz area, like that boardwalk pier stuff is still very strong in California, so I don't know why they got rid of that. I can't speak to Avengers Campus because I haven't been there. Pixar, I mean, you can make the loose connection to Emeryville, but that's more of this is where Pixar's headquarters are, not where the characters live.
Right, so, and it's not even like where the magic is really, like kids aren't going to connect with that. Like, only like crazy nerds who know too much about Disney are going to connect with that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like the individual pieces, but the overall is confusing to me.
I think that's a really valid point. And like, after being at Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land, what you said about Cars Land being the testing ground for how deep they can go with that IP-based land, like that makes so much sense. That all just like clicked for me. Like, yeah, like they did that first and they knocked it out of the parks. So they were like, what else can we do? And it just, I don't want to say fell short, but like, it feels like even at Walt Disney World and Hollywood Studios, they're like inserting things where they don't really belong. And like, not that they don't, like, okay, like Galaxy's Edge, sure, like it fits in Hollywood Studios, like, okay, Toy Story, like Pixar, like sure it fits, like.
My sister actually made an interesting point about Hollywood Studios that I hadn't considered, and it changed my outlook on Hollywood Studios. She told me that she thinks of all these parts of Hollywood Studios as movie studios. So like you're walking into like the Toy Story movie set, the Star Wars movie set. I don't know. And I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. I can see that. So that's how she thinks of the park. I like old Hollywood Studios a little bit better, but if that's what they're trying to do, then I can see that being the case.
Right.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah. I feel it, I guess. But then you've also got like Mickey and Minnie's, which like completely, like people were angry about Mickey and Minnie's, like it was like, why get rid of the Great Movie Ride? Like it's the Great Movie Ride. Like
but it's
the heart of Hollywood Studios and everyone, or MGM, and then it just kind of exploded after that. And so like I think liking the pieces individually and then the whole not really making sense like is a really, really good point that I hadn't considered before.
But Mickey and Minnie's is going to fit, I think, very well in the new Toontown.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. We're going to have to go back now that Toontown's closed this summer.
I'm so excited for Toontown to reopen.
Me too.
Toontown is fun. I don't care. Like, I'm 17 years old. Toontown is so fun.
It is fun. I love it.
The whole thing is
It's
fun.
happy and it's colorful and like it's just
so
it's like one of those like Lisa Frank stickers. That's what Toontown is.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So
you're old.
I'm old. I'm the one guy. I'm the one person on the show right now who has no idea what Mimi's talking about. So
it's like that a lot.
If you have time, we'd like to take a walk through Disneyland with you and go to each of the areas and maybe get your opinion on something Mimi and I did recently on our show, which is whether you, for that area, whether you like the vibe or the rides more in that area, and then you explain your rationale behind it. Okay.
That's hard.
I guess let's start with I don't know. I say it's an easy one. Let's just go down Main Street.
Okay.
Vibes or rides?
100% vibes.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean, Walt's apartment is there. You got great moments with Mr. Lincoln. Vibes.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we decided too.
And so we're gonna go. Which direction do you like to go? Do you like to go
Tomorrowland?
Towards Tomorrowland?
Yep.
Or do you Tomorrowland? Okay.
Yeah. I got a rope drop Space Mountain. That's where I go.
So Tomorrowland, vibes or rides?
Wait, is this Magic Kingdom or Disneyland? This is Disneyland.
Disneyland, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go with rides because there is a lot of unused space right now in Tomorrowland. I mean, the old Carousel Progress building is like dead, and you've got rotting people mover tracks all over the place. So kind of a vibe killer over there.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right. And then like the whole like platform area that exists, like the stage. Like I don't know if any of that is
Well, we
back.
did the Jedi training there.
Yeah, like I don't know if any of that is back. Yeah,
I think they do random character dance parties, but like only at night. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Like Tomorrowland at Disneyland it needs a revamp.
Right.
Yeah, Rides is a valid choice.
So help me out. If we keep moving counterclockwise, the next area
It's Fantasyland, which I mean, Small World is technically part of Fantasyland, so it kind of splits.
Do you want to go to Toontown first and then go there, or do you want to go to Fantasyland first? All right, let's go to Toontown. So imagine Toontown
as it was
with the refurbishment that you.
With the refurbishment. Yeah,
try to picture what you think.
Well, I'm gonna go with vibes.
Okay.
I like the character houses, and it's so full of life and happy.
Cool. Yeah. And then my favorite part of Disneyland is Fantasyland, so we'll go back to Fantasyland.
That's such a basic choice.
I like Fantasyland at Disneyland.
I like it too.
It's my favorite.
This is a hard one because the rides there are so classic and timeless, but the vibes, like with the rides being so close and so many of them being outside, it has such an energy that the rest of the park doesn't have. Oh man, this one's really hard. Oh, I'm going to go with vibes.
Oh, very good.
I mean, I like the cobblestones under your feet and the music, and you can see Dumbo and Alice and the whale eating the boats. Like that's just a cool part of the park.
Excellent.
It's a really good place to just like sit and watch.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. I'm gonna go with rides for Fantasyland. I'm not playing, but I'm gonna go with rides just because like King Arthur Carousel, it's a classic. Like I will always go on it. I will always go on it. Like
cool.
Aside from like everything else that's in Fantasyland, like yeah.
You're going to Carousel. Very good. So let's go over to Galaxy's Edge, then Critter Country. So you're in Galaxy's Edge.
Vibes. Smuggler's Run is not my favorite. Rise of the Resistance is pretty good. It's just kind of boring.
No, it's not that fun. And like I want to experience the ride, not be the ride. And so the guy was like, yelling at me to like push buttons and stuff, and I'm like, I just want to be like moved around. Like I don't like okay. And like the pre-show was like fun, I guess, with the cast members, but we waited 70 minutes and it was not worth any of those 70 minutes.
Agreed. Vibes. I mean, they do such a good job with the characters walking around, and the fact that there's no music but there's sound effects in the background, that's cool.
Yeah.
In that area, when you're talking about building a land completely around an IP, Galaxy's Edge and Cars Land, that's a tough choice because they're both.
Oh, I'm picking Cars Land. Cars has more stuff.
Really, really well done. Yeah.
Cars Land is prettier at night. I'm going with Cars Land. Like,
oh yeah.
What kind of choice is that?
So CJ picked Vibes in Galaxy's Edge. Doesn't go down to poor old Critter Country. It's still there. It's hanging on.
Little baby Critter Country.
I actually like the vibes of Critter Country. I like it feels like you're in a forest. They do a good job with the greenery there.
Mm-hmm. Are you excited for the Princess and the Frog revamp of Splash Mountain? Or is it
at Disneyland, I'm afraid of what it's going to do to Critter Country because I feel like it's New Orleans Square encroaching upon Critter Country. So
and you just have Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, I'm a little apprehensive, to be honest.
And we love the Winnie the Pooh ride.
Yeah.
It's the sweetest thing. So
yeah. I'm excited for the like retheme. I think it's going to be awesome and so well done.
Right.
I think it's sad to see the classic ride change, but I think like it's time for something fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested to see how they adapt Critter Country and like around that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it'll be really interesting to see like how that plays out with what they decide to do.
Yeah. I just hope they don't just like plop some animatronics in there. They got to think about the whole thing. And that's where the storytelling comes in.
Yeah.
Well, we'll know soon, supposedly. So we'll see what happens. So we're going to keep moving. And I think Frontierland.
New Orleans Square.
Yes.
I'm going to go with rides because you've got Haunted and Pirates. Classics.
Yeah, it's my favorite area of Disneyland.
Yeah, it's so good.
I can stay there. And Pirates is closed now, but I think it's reopening really soon.
Tomorrow, July 1st.
Outstanding. There you go.
So much is happening July 1st. Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2. The Minions movie. Pirates is coming back. So much is happening tomorrow.
And it's Indiana Jones's birthday tomorrow.
Okay, but like...
Yes.
It's a great day in all the fandoms.
Literally. Minions.
Let's all take off work. Let's just make it a holiday. Right.
Well, I don't have work tomorrow.
Okay.
I did take off work tomorrow so I could go see Minions. Very excited.
Great. All right. So move out of New Orleans Square, and is it Frontierland?
Frontierland.
Now? Okay, Frontierland.
I'm gonna go with rides, because you've got Big Thunder, which is great, and you've got Mark Twain, which is like also classic, and that's connected to Walt Disney as well. So
cool.
Gotta love that.
All right, and Adventureland. Yeah, Adventureland. Is it the last one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Rides, because I love Jungle Cruise. It's so funny, and Indiana Jones is great as well.
Awesome.
Biggest regret not doing Indiana Jones.
Yeah, we didn't get to do it.
Biggest regret.
No,
but like that's what I said when I got off of Dinosaur. I was like, that would have been so cool if it was Indiana Jones, because it's like the same track, right? Everyone knows that.
It is the exact same
And I was like,
track.
that would have been so cool if it was Indiana Jones and not whatever that was.
Better.
As long as it's not as loud as Dinosaur.
That is literally...
Dinosaur would be 1,000 times better if it wasn't as loud.
This is
I think it probably is about as loud, but there's much more going on than like, is this our dino? Nope. Okay, on to the next. Like,
and it's
there's
just like screaming at you.
Yeah, there's like dialogue.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, what did I do? Like,
you got to go on it. It's light years better. Trust me.
Yeah. No, I believe you.
Well, listen. Tomorrow's an important. Let's just go tomorrow. We'll jump on a plane. And
tomorrow's a big day.
Why not?
The Minions movie comes out tomorrow.
Well, that's right. You already planned. Sorry. See, we were gonna do it, but now you have to go to the Minions movie. So
yeah, at 10:45 a.m.
All right. Well,
getting up early to go to the Minions movie.
Oh boy. CJ, listen. This has been great. It's been so awesome to connect with you. We're so excited for Park2Park Podcast and all the success and the moving around and the family getting settled and you going back and all this great stuff. I mean,
you're such a great Disney story.
Whenever you want to trade families, let me know. I'm open to trades, you know. I mean, look at this one. I mean, what are you going to do? So
hey, you want a 1 year older?
Sorry. No, I wouldn't trade her for anything in the world. All right. So CJ, listen, why don't you share with all of our listeners how they can find Park2Park Podcast, how they can follow you guys on the social networks. Share with everyone how they can do that.
So we're Park2Park Pod with the number 2, Park2Park Pod. You can find us on Instagram, allegedly on Twitter, as my sister says. And then we're on Spotify and Anchor and Stitcher and Google Podcasts on Park2Park Podcast with the number 2.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much. This has been delightful. We wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Stay
and likewise.
in touch with us, please.
Yes.
Your show is really good. And listen, all you guys that are listening out there, give Park2Park Podcast a chance. It's good stuff. They're great conversation, good topics, especially if you have an interest in both Disneyland and Disney World. This is a podcast that you should be listening to.
Agreed.
Because they actually know what they're talking about. Unlike Mimi and I, who just kind of make it up.
You guys know what you're talking about.
We just gotta talk. And
I love right.
So we listen to people like Park2Park, and then we talk on our show because we have an informed. We have to do our research, right?
We listen to Park2Park. We take all the information that they just spewed and then say it again, but in a dumber way.
No, we don't plagiarize.
On our show.
It's all good. CJ, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. The best to you guys. Stay in touch, okay?
Thank you.